Three, two, one. Welcome back, everybody. Episode number 12 of You Are Not Your ROAS. Today, we have a real treat for you. We have the marketing maven, the send it savant, John Coyle. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. You know, I think that the thing that you're supposed to say at the beginning of podcasts is like, oh yeah, this is a long time coming. Like, I'm so glad we finally got to do this. I've had people on my podcast, second time I've talked to them in my life, and that's what they're saying. It's like what you're supposed to say, but we really did actually kind of have a hard time setting this up. So,
there was definitely some difficulties in the scheduling, all on my part. John has been a gem, and yeah, to your point, I have been a long-time listener, first-time caller. So this is really exciting to have you on the show. So as always, I'm out in Austin HQ. Max could not join us today. He is out tending to his chicken coop. And so now you're stuck with just me and John, which is going to be even more fun. So John, where does this podcast find you today?
I'm based in the Salt Lake City area in Utah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually not that close to Salt Lake, but that's like the only place people know in Utah. So that's the area. Yeah. That's the general vicinity.
Funny random digression. I went to school in Indiana, and a lot of people, came from up north around Chicago, but the towns kind of wouldn't be noticeable. So they'd say you're from Chicago, and then you actually know the geography of the area. You're like, that's like 2 hours away from Chicago. I don't know if that's really from Chicago, but
honestly, okay. So here's the best way to contextualize where I live. Like, you've seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
I live about 20 minutes away from that town. It's called Preston, Idaho. Go out on the road, 20 minutes, I'm in Preston. So that's where I'm
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I got to do the Narrows top down, and we stayed in Hurricane.
Nice.
But that's a beautiful.
Yeah, here in Utah we call that Hurricane. I don't know why.
Hurricane. Oh no! I'm already losing my points. How long have you been in Utah?
So I came here for college. I'm originally from the Spokane, Washington area. Not actually from Spokane. I'm from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, originally, but that's the place people know. And I came down here for college and haven't left. So, it's been like 13 years now.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. What'd you study?
I actually studied video production. So I got a degree that's somewhat relevant to my current field.
Yeah.
Which is a good time. I don't do any production at all, but I know how to speak the language, I guess. Or at least I did years ago. So
yeah, I love that. I find that super helpful. I'm kind of same boat of I went to school for economics, and I'm obviously not doing anything in finance or anything like that. So I love that. What was your first job?
What's that?
Yeah. What was your first job?
Yeah, so out of college, and this is another thing I learned that you and I have in common. We're both mid-distance runners. Both ran at the college level. So I ran at Weber State. And I was like kind of in this category, like we'll digress into running a little bit here. I was kind of in this category where I could run like a 4:03 mile, but also like a 29:30 10K. So I wasn't really great at anything. I just had this like really good range. So I didn't do anything but I wanted to run professionally after college. And, so I got like a very small deal with Skechers. So I guess you could say that was my first job, was professional runner.
Cool.
But that small deal was like, let me stress, small deal. It was like they gave me some gear. Sometimes they floated some travel for me sometimes, and they did some prize money matching, but they didn't actually pay me anything. So I also had to work full time. And the only thing I had experience doing up to that point, I had a degree, but the only thing I had experience doing was working in a running store. So I got a job managing a running store because I needed flexibility because I was trying to run professionally. And so I managed this running store. And it's funny, people I always say to marketers, like people who run traffic, it's like, why don't you just start your own brand, your own e-com brand or something like that? And I'm like, because I managed a physical product store, and I realized I literally hate everything about it. Like product management, logistical supplier, all of that stuff, hated it. But so that was 2014. I started running Facebook ads then to get people into my store. And I kind of fell in love with the marketing and sales aspect of it. So I'm not really a product or logistics guy, but I remember what kind of hooked me was, I was having this event at my store, and running stores have regional reps. So we had an Adidas regional rep I qualify that because Adidas sponsored this event, but not like real Adidas. Like our regional rep used some of her budget to sponsor this event, some grassroots budget, and so, but like nobody was like, how are we going to get the word out? You know what I mean? So I started running these Facebook ads, and I ran like a giveaway where we were going to like give away a free pair of shoes, and you had to come to the event to win. And Adidas actually kicked in and gave away some more stuff, but it was like this barbecue and like meet and run and stuff like that. And it was huge. Like so many people entered, and then like so many people came. Like all I had to do is email them and remind them. This is 2014. People still open their email. So like I just emailed them and reminded them. And like a ton of people came, and a ton of people spent money in the store. And that was like the hook, right? Like I was like, I did a thing. And like, then people gave me money for it. Like that was, I think everybody who goes down the marketing journey has that moment of like, whoa, okay, I have a skill set here.
I love that. Yeah. And ironically enough too, I actually come from the shoe sales background. After I got out of college, I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. I had this fancy economics degree, and I just needed money. So I had to sell women's shoes. And it actually helped a ton. It was super interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like, like it's anything sales, I think, super helpful, right?
I know. It sounds so cliche, but and I could be getting old too, so that might be it too, where I might be get off my lawn. But yeah, the ability to shape a narrative, especially in media buying, is just so powerful. Like, I mean, the data definitely tells you one thing, but there's also their layer of interpretation that can be very valuable when you know how to do it right. I mean, honestly, that was for people who don't know, John and I connected at Geek Out. And he had just a killer presentation, and it was just your ability to synthesize all these incredibly disparate data points into a coherent narrative was incredibly compelling. Really impressive stuff.
Anything you've done in sales, like that experience is valid to draw on. You know, whatever you're doing now, whether you're CEO, but any kind of marketing thing. I had a job in college where like one of the toughest sales jobs you'll ever have, other than door to door. Mall Kiosk. I sold at a Mall Kiosk. I sold like this green tea supplement, and legit, like I kid you not. This is you want to know, like this was my clickbait. I learned when I grew up, everyone in my town. This is super weird. Everyone in my town, like juggling was part of our elementary school thing so we all knew how to juggle. I know how to juggle. Random thing about me. So I would mix up some of the drinks. I'd mix them up in water bottles, and I'd juggle them. I'd start juggling them. When I noticed somebody watching me, I'd catch it and be like, "Hey, you want a sample?"
No.
Then they're like, "Oh, you're not supposed to look at the Mall Kiosk people because they'll start selling you something." So then they're hooked, and then usually they'd do something like, and then here's my that was my hook. Here's my lead. They'd be like, "Yeah, sure." They'd reach their hand out to me, and I'd be like, and I'd pull it back. I'd physically pull it back and be like, "Oh, well, this one's strawberry. Do you want a different flavor? I can show you the other flavors." And then they're like, kind of already like leaned in, and like I drew on that experience the other day of like, you know, just creating hooks, I actually talked about that sales job last week to my team because there was like a different path we would take people down based on what benefits they saw in what the drink did and stuff like that. But like, yeah, it's kind of wild. I think anything in sales, it's like, now I think about that and I'm like, literally the place where like everybody walks by the Mall kiosks, like, don't look at them. Just, yeah.
Oh, it's so hard, yeah.
They're not real people. But like having to do something in that environment, like to get attention, not dissimilar, I would say, to our current advertising environment, right?
Yeah, or especially too when you layer on seasonality, where like that's where we always joke, right? Like in the down months is when the real marketers are made, because that's when you need the awesome creative, and that's when you need like the really clever offers and ideas. Because yeah, it's super challenging. I love that, and again, it's like a brother from another mother. I was also a mall rat, and so It was really interesting and helpful to see like being able to build these little theses in your head. And when you're a kid, you don't understand like the logic or the fancy nomenclature or academic stuff behind it, but all of it's the same, man. It's just wrapped in a fancy bow and what is that, a sport jacket with the elbow pads on it, but it's the same stuff. And like the economics, the way the people understand and There's a certain aspect of me. It's like, I don't think everybody should run their own business, but I do think everybody should start their own business and try it for a little bit, because like all the stuff that you shit on, you get it. Like once you get into like I'm moving into this CMO role, and I've always been this like really, really strong individual contributor. IC is like the corporate jargon. And I'm just realizing like goals and like what quote unquote work looks like for a leader is totally different than an IC.
Oh yeah.
And it's just this huge, massive shift. And I used to, coming from both of us like sports backgrounds, like if you're the captain, you're usually the most prominent, or you're the best player, quote unquote, right?
Just lead by example. That's all you got to do. Yep.
Yeah. And I don't know if that was like always the right move. Whereas, so Pele for the Brazilian team was most wonderful soccer player ever, and he wasn't even the captain. And the Brazil's coach reasoning was like, the captain he has all this baggage that comes with it. You need to keep the team together. You need to work, and maybe the best, most talented person isn't necessarily the right person for that job. And that's what I'm seeing now. Where I used to not judge, but again, I come from a little more technical background, so a lot of like how I would layer value on people would be their proficiency.
Yeah.
And now I'm realizing like there is really a lot of value in being a great leader, hiring a team up fast, skilling up your team, building processes, like all this stuff I kind of took for granted.
Yeah, getting individual contributors, people who are really like strong craftspeople, to like buy into you and buy into your vision. Like that is huge, because as an IC, you probably had the same experience that I've had, where in certain companies, when I've been working there, because I've been running my own company for a while, but like when I've been working at certain companies, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much bull. I don't know if I can swear on your podcast, but you know,
oh yeah,
yeah, like this is so much bull, right? Like this is, you know, they're feeding you a line and everybody knows it, right? And yeah, all the individual contributors know it, all of that, you know. So it's like a lot of times being a leader is like getting these people with technical skills, who value mastery of craft, to believe and like you when you're kind of moving into this role where you're losing a little bit of that mastery of craft, and you kind of hate it, right? As someone who's always valued mastery of craft. But yeah, I mean, we're going on tangent, but yeah, I agree.
Incredibly well put, though. That's just eloquently put. That's exactly what I was thinking. Okay, so you have made some pretty big moves in your life. What do you think what would some keys to success do you think you would kind of lay out for some people, some younger listeners trying to, or age agnostic listeners, but just people trying to make some step changes in their life?
Earlier on in their journey than me, I guess. Look, I mean, I followed a path, and there's other paths to follow. But a couple things that I think have been like pretty key for me is when like developing mastery of craft, I can't understate it, right? To like actually get good at a very important and usable thing, like running traffic and converting that into sales. Right. And on a deep level, not just like, oh, I know how to like log into Facebook Ads Manager and like manage my bids and and stuff like that. Cause I think there's a lot of people who are media buyers who really just learned in the area of Facebook. And I wouldn't say that I'm all that different. It's not like I know a ton of channels, but I've had to like have these like grindy phases where like I'm working with some brand. I mean, I almost think that like surviving in the drop shipping era of Facebook ads was almost like a really good like it's as crappy as drop shipping was, like it was almost a good experience, because I would be I would be an agency hired by a drop shipper, which like if you think about the irony of that, like a drop shipper's whole job is basically just to run traffic. Like they do nothing else, but then they're going to hire this agency, me, and by agency I mean me and me alone, to run traffic for them. And it was like, you know, they'd be like not good products. There'd be no redeeming quality, and I would just have to be grinding it out. And I'd be doing everything from like pitching different offers to them, different bundles, doing stuff on their Shopify, do whatever I could to make it work, because it was like my only means of making any money, right? And a lot of times I'd like tie these performance deals in just to like get some action going, right? And so like, yeah, I mean, I think that like having some like grindy phases where like you're really relying heavily on your capabilities as a craftsperson, whatever it is, a salesperson, a marketer, of whatever, to like make it work, and like you don't really have any other like fallback to that. That's been like a key to success for me. And then outside that, being actually pretty introspective about like what that means in a bigger picture, right? Like what we're talking about right now, like leadership qualities, like what principally does this mean? Or like actually, you know, some big breakthroughs for me came when I was kind of like, yeah, you know what, like I'm kind of living on a hack. And a lot of us were, I think, you know, whether we're brands or whether we're media buyers, we're kind of living on a hack. For a while, Facebook had underpriced traffic and an extremely advanced algorithm, right? And never ever in like history probably has interruptive traffic been as easy as it was then. There was that, like, people are always like, oh, there was a time where Google ads were super arbitrageable. Like, Google isn't interruptive traffic, right? Like that's search, but it's intent-based traffic. Like interruptive traffic has always been very, very difficult, and Facebook made it really easy for a time, right? And when I say that I'm living on a hack, it's like I had to learn the deeper principles of like, okay, how do you actually convert interruptive traffic? You know, it's right product or right offer in front of the right people at the right time. And yeah, Facebook's making this like people and time aspect of it really easy on me. So I'm just focusing on offer and creative, which is great. But when I mean living on a hack, I mean there's a lot of my clients or a lot of brands that I'm working with that outside this window of time, outside of this like arbitrageable window of time on Facebook, wouldn't have ever survived, right? So how do you diversify against that, and how do you level up so that you can do you get away from it? Do you liquidate? So kind of that was probably key moments for me as well. So mastery of craft, and then being introspective enough to like understand like the larger picture as a whole, and then get like sound business, as bad as corny as it sounds. Like I think a lot of people in the online entrepreneurial world kind of poo-poo on like formal education. But some of the stuff I learned in like business classes in college is very useful, right? Like it never was when I was just focusing on craft, but like now that I'm actually focusing on like every client I onboard, every time I onboard a client, I bring them through a SWOT analysis, SWOT. Did those in freaking business classes 10 years ago, and they were doing them for 30 years at that point. But it's actually like probably the biggest thing, right? So, I don't know if that really answered your question, but those have been like key points for me, is like, those things. And other things I've learned, I think, would be like, you know, I don't want to say entrepreneurship is overrated, but I do want to say, like you said, it's not for everybody. And I think that it gets a little too over-glorified, either hustle culture or passive income culture, either end. Both get way too, like, it's just too easy to get attention by, like, glorifying them, right? Like everybody, polar things get attention on social platforms. And so you got Gary Vee, who polarizes and glorifies hustle culture, and others who do passive income culture. And the truth is, like, I think for a lot of people, getting a job where they're going to be able to develop mastery of craft, even if they ultimately want to be entrepreneurs, isn't a bad idea. And it's probably a good path. Like, get paid to do the thing that you want to do, you know, being an entrepreneur, and you'll learn a lot of stuff along the way too of what you don't want to do in your business.
Oh man, brilliantly put. I couldn't. I'm getting that tattooed. The whole monologue. I couldn't agree more. There's a couple
little words.
Yeah, total. A big whale coming out of it. No, I couldn't agree more. There's actually a couple books that helped me out a lot. There's one called How Will You Measure Your Life by Clay Christensen. And he kind of goes into helping you have, it's really interesting. He overlays essentially business principles over your life, and it gives you some really interesting data points, because he, for people that know, he's a professor out of Harvard, or he's passed now, but he's a real famous professor out of Harvard, disruption theory pioneer. Yada, yada, yada. But the, long and the short of it there was he actually was the Jeffrey Skilling was one of his students. And for people who don't know who Jeffrey Skilling is, he was the CEO of Enron, which was arguably one of the biggest, like, quote unquote frauds in market history. And so this drove him to write a book where it was like, how did I have all these really smart, young, talented people, you know, devolve into something where you're defrauding at like the highest levels? Like, and so that was a really impactful book for me. And then to your other point about the business, there's something called the E-Myth, which is a really good book on starting a business, where the too long didn't read there is just because you're a good baker doesn't mean you should open a bakery. Right. And I think there's a lot of people that conflate to your point, like epic craftsmanship with running a business, because it is so far from that. And also to your point, the the more you get into running your business, the farther you get from that IC work that usually made you happy, because that was the stuff that you're doing deep work, you're doing inspirational work. Nobody's bothering you for hours. Like you can, whereas like you're running a business, it's just a totally different mindset, and other things generate value versus that deep work.
I mean, I will, like, you know, Ogilvy famously fired himself as CEO so that he could be the head copywriter, right? So, you know, it's possible, right? But hard to find a CEO, you know, for not your company, for not their company. Like, it's not that easy. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that becoming an individual contributor that's very good and very like good at what you do. And this has been the path that I've followed. I was an individual contributor, and I created an agency and stuff like that. And so that I can speak a lot to this. Yeah. Ultimately, the more that business grows, the more that either you have to like consciously make an effort to hire like actual business leaders, which is hard, like really hard, or you have to consciously make an effort to become this like trainer, you know, of people, and this like overseer, which a lot of times individual contributors aren't the best at that. Or you have to like just not do that business anymore, you know. But it's not a bad way to make money though, right? Like, so it's not a bad first hustle, I think. And certain times, if you're an individual contributor, who's a good thing. So like if you're a baker, you know, a great baker, that doesn't mean you should open a bakery. Like maybe it means that you should launch a line of like desserts, right? Maybe it means that so Donald Miller is a great example of this with StoryBrand. He's a great author. That's like what he's really good at. And the highest impact thing he can do for the business of StoryBrand, or I think they're called something else now, Business Made Simple or something like that, is write books. Right, like that's his highest leverage activity, right? So if you're a great traffic person, a great paid media person, starting a paid media agency is not gonna in the long term, you're not gonna be using that skill anymore. Probably not even gonna be, and people are gonna come along who know more about it than you, or have to know more about it than you because you're not focused on it anymore. So maybe actually starting like a brand where a really high leverage activity is, you know, running paid media would be a better route for you. So yeah, there are ways that you can start a business and probably be more involved with your high leverage skill. But yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, I've read the E-Myth as well, and that's kind of maybe part of the books that I feel like maybe contribute to like too passive of business culture sometimes, but the principles are sound of like, yeah, just because you're a baker doesn't mean you should start a bakery.
Yeah, I love that. All right, folks, time for the value add segment. You made it through unscathed. I think you're even more energized than you came on, John. This is the coffee's kicking in or something. I'm getting nervous.
We started talking about stuff. You get me going. Yeah.
But first we have the value add segment. So let's jump in right to, so I'm a client and you're building a DTC brand. How do you think of building that like now in the current environment or ecosystem?
Okay. Let me start in a place here for you. So like, I mean, you're on Twitter. Okay. So let me jump here first. Almost every DTC brand thinks Facebook, Instagram ads. That's not necessarily right, but we're not even going to go down that road. Like, let's just say, okay, we're gonna build this largely with Facebook, Instagram ads. I'm gonna I can't just go down this road without giving a little caveat here and saying like, yeah, maybe we should like be responsible and set up some like basic Google ads first, you know, and grab whatever low hanging fruit there is to like create some like baseline good return, even if it's not super scalable. But let's say, hey, you know, our plan is to try and grow with Facebook, Instagram ads. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's the bad way to go. It's definitely what I know. If I were to launch a DTC brand, I would launch one that, you know, that's the way I could go, because that's what I know really well. What is the biggest lever that you have right now on Facebook and Instagram?
I would say creative.
Oh, right? Yeah, you and all the rest of the gurus.
Creative. Yeah.
You and all the rest
of the
that's
gurus.
Not the creative drum.
I got guru tag. I got the creative cue.
No, okay. So yeah, like I'm not saying that's wrong, but I actually think it's like oversimplified in the world of DTC culture right now, and said like creative is your number one lever, right? And number one, like I just kind of alluded to, there's a lot of ways to build a DTC brand that aren't Facebook and Instagram ads. And number two, I actually think, yeah, like maybe from the ground up, creative is your biggest lever, but maybe not. You know, like maybe it's kind of like working on like a better offer, right? Or like a better product. or something like being more unique. Maybe like a lot of times creative, I'll give you an example of like a company where we like don't really have to think about the creative at all, and it does really well. So we have a brand that sells, they actually have like a specific manufacturing process that allows them to do this, where they like take large bulk amounts of this thing and like put it into like smaller containers. But they sell like designer fragrances like Gio Armani and different ones like that, in like smaller sizes than you can get them anywhere else. So like the hook essentially is like, hey, Gio Armani for 99 cents, for as little as 99 cents. But we don't have to do much creatively. Like the offer's pretty strong. So like coming up with an actual real moat around your business, like they actually have a whole warehouse and people and process that allows them to do this, as opposed to like just going and sourcing some product from China and then trying to come up with really good creative. So like I would say like if you're in that launch phase, actually building like a real moat around your business that translates really easily into marketing, where it's like, look, all I have to do is just say this thing and people are going to buy it. Like if I put the product in front of people without a very good creative, like then you're onto something, right? So I used to do a thing like when I would validate product, back when I worked with brands that were more in that launch phase, I would do a thing where I would say, yeah, we're going to validate your product. I'm going to use like really crappy creatives. Like I'm basically going to use your product photos and like just the core proposition of what it is. I have a great example of one, dress shoes made out of football leather. Like it was the leather that they use in NFL footballs. Yeah. You know, somebody made them into dress shoes. Kind of cool, right? But just product photo. That's a cool idea. Yeah, that's cool. Product photo. So I'm like, okay, let's validate this product. If that doesn't work in its simplest form and it's like already hard and already a grind, like I would go back to the drawing board there instead of trying to be like, let's come up with some really great creative, or let's go find an NFL influencer or something like that. You know, like just make it like really simple and easy to buy without great creative. And then creative is a fuel, not a fire, right?
Write that down.
Yeah, write it down. There it is. So that's like one thing. And then like, let's jump into like a brand that maybe isn't starting out. If you want, I don't know, maybe you're listening and aren't that.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. Let me come up with like an example brand. So let's do like Purple mattresses. Pretty advanced for a DTC brand. Pretty far along. Do you think creative is a big lever for them? Now. Like, do you think that you, Raba, like Purple comes to you and they say, hey, we want to hit this goal. And that goal is not on trajectory. They have to break trajectory to hit that goal. Do you think that there's like a bunch of space beyond diminishing returns on creative? Or do you think they're pretty far past the point of diminishing returns on creative?
Yeah, we're at best, I'd say they're break even.
Yeah,
approaching diminishing returns. Like it's going to be hard to squeeze out more value there, and it's going to be, I think, to the point you're trying to make is like a lot of times like 90% is pretty doable, but that last 10% of value costs like more than the whole 90% did to acquire, because it's just wringing a dry towel, running people down. Like, okay. I take your point there. So
yeah, right. There are a lot of brands. If you've been around for a little while at this point, we have like lots of brands in our portfolio like this, where it's like everyone, you know, like Nick does this, right? Like, Nick Shackelford, who's like our head of our agency, like, he likes to say, hey, creative is your biggest lever. Well, you know, for certain brands, they're pretty far, but like they haven't launched a crappy creative in a year and a half, right? Like, and you know, to quote the Beatles, there's nothing you can do that can't be done. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung, right? Like, it's not like we're going to come up with some new angle that nobody's ever thought of to sell men's t-shirts or men's wallets or something like that, right? Like, we're not going to come up with some new idea for selling this wallet that is cool, right? Like, here, I'll show you, like this one. It's like one of those ones that like does that, pops my cards out. Like, it's cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, it's cool, but it's like, we've already showed that, you know, like, it's not like we're going to come up with some new way to sell that. And if we do, like, if you try to come up with a chord progression that's never been done before, it would sound weird and not good, right? Like, you know, so creatively, if you're like stretching into these different ideas, a lot of times it's like not good. So, you know, maybe you go to iterations, but you're not going to get that much gain from iterations. So creative is your biggest lever if there's room there, right? But if you've already been really leveraging creative and really focused on creative, it's not your biggest lever. And I would say that your biggest lever is the ability to find your biggest lever, which I think is a big way Triple Whale comes in, right? Like, here we go, subtle pitch.
Zing.
For example, maybe let's go back to Purple mattresses. I split things up into three categories, and it's our three media buying, like core media buying team members that we have. We have creative strategists. We just talked about that. And a lot of times there is room there, right? A lot of times it's like, oh, they're not trying any advertorials. They're not trying, there's so many angles they're leaving out there, so many elements of their offer they're not highlighting and stuff like that. So a lot of times there is room there, and that is a lever. I don't want to downplay it. But creative strategists, media buyers, and growth strategists. So, if you've got purple and you're like, okay, I'm looking at this thing and it's like, you guys have been running great creative. You guys haven't launched a bad creative in 5 years, right? Like there's not a lot of room to like break trajectory and hit this higher goal here on creative. It's not a lever. So then you look at media buying, right? Like, is it like, okay, there's some stuff they're doing in their ad account that, really, if we fix this, whether it's Facebook or whether it's their media mix of like, oh, they need to allocate some of this over here or whatever. Yep. And maybe we'd be on the track. Sometimes there is that. But again, with Purple, you probably wouldn't find that with them. They have teams of full-time media buyers per channel and stuff. You might not. You might find that. You might. So again, there's a lot of brands where there is room on the media buying part. And I think a lot of people in the guru space are underplaying that right now. Like their media buying is a lever, especially when you've overstretched creative. Like when you're past the breaking point on creative and you've already been launching lots of good creative for a long time, a lot of times media buying and figuring out what the algorithms of the platforms want is a bigger lever. And then where you'd probably actually find it, for Purple, would probably be in some, and this is where I categorize it under like the growth strategist preview, in some element of the brand that they hadn't seen before. So you'd uncover some gem about this company that was like a hidden strength or a hidden opportunity, right? So you might be like, okay, people who come in on this product actually have a 3 times higher LTV at 90 days. And we're not focusing on that product on the acquisition side. So if we actually just like focused our creative efforts on that product and focused our media buying efforts on that product and like improved our acquisition on that product, I think that would actually break trajectory and bring them to that new plane, right? So that's not always what it is. Sometimes there isn't that there, but the levers, like the biggest lever, like that's kind of back to full circle. The biggest lever in any brand is the ability to find out what the biggest lever is. It's not always creative.
I love it. Damn, you got me. You brought me around.
Yeah.
I think I'm in on that now. That is so fascinating. I never thought of it in terms of that essentially diminishing returns or just that economic model of absorption.
Right.
Like you've absorbed the majority of the value in that vector.
Right.
Where it's like even if you go get sandwich for somebody and you spend $500,000 to run a video or make a video and stuff, it's like it'd be the same as your $10,000 UGC because you're not changing any of the economics and you're not like, you're already running great creative. So like, what great creative can do. So there's no way that you're really going to get a step change there.
Yeah.
That's a really fascinating take.
To get really tactical with people though, because I feel like that whole thing was like, people are like, oh great. So now I don't really know like what to take away from that. If you can figure out what your biggest lever is, oftentimes with creative, it's either that you're leaving some stone unturned, right? Like there's some angle or some market that you can sell your product to that you're not selling your product to. And you can have some win with either like relevance or specificity or like reason to act now or some transformation or use cases, right? Like True Classic Tees has use cases of like, at the club, at the gym, things like that, right? So it's something like that, or it's hopping on a trend, right? So the creative's job, if you have a strong offer, the creative's job is to just do 2 things. 1, get attention. 2, highlight the strongest element of that strong offer, right? So think back to that brand I said earlier. All that creatives have to do is get attention and then say, Gio Armani for 99 cents, right? Like that's the strongest element of their offering. So yeah, like finding trends, finding TikTok trends, Instagram trends, things like that. That's usually another like win creatively. Media buying, I would say it's a lot of times getting the right organization and attribution on your data. So like using a tool like a triple pixel. There you go. Using a tool like a triple pixel or something to like figure out like what is actually like the best window for me to optimize on. Is it 1-day click? Is it modeled views? Is it what is it? Or if I'm using in ad account, like what am I looking for? Or getting the right media mix. A lot of times those are the wins on the media buying side. Is like getting more into the data and running the correlations to figure out like what's actually impactful here and what's just perceptionally impactful. And then, on the growth strategist side, a lot of times it's like, this is where it's like hard to formulate, but, it's figuring out like, what is the true moat that this brand has? Like what is the true strength that this brand has? So a lot of times like brand owners will say that their biggest strength is brand, right? Like our brand is strong. I don't mean to say that that's wrong, but it's not like really that much of a moat, unless you're like Nike. So, like if your biggest strength is brand, what you're really saying is like your biggest strength actually is that you get a lot of word of mouth sales, or that people come back and buy from you all the time. If neither of those two things are true, then your biggest strength probably isn't brand. Right. So what is it? Is it a manufacturing thing? Is it some kind of supplier relationship? Is it, we have one that like their ability to produce mass creatives quickly was a big strength of theirs. Is it LTVs? Is it like what I said earlier? Like, can we dig into the analytics of the business and find little uncovered gems that like we didn't realize, we didn't see, and we could like leverage,
I am so on board with all of that. And to your point too, I think you caveated very nicely where you were saying that it's not that creative can't be the biggest lever. It's just in some use cases, especially when you do have a proper creative team that is doing some great offer testing and so on and so forth, it might be more useful to go uncover a new nugget and kind of go truffle hunting. Because that's what's going to get you the step change, not this kind of like 0.5x month over month growth type of stuff where it's like you hit a creative, everything went great, we made a bunch of money, but you're not seeing any, to your point, you're not breaking the slope. The trajectory is essentially the same. And you're making more money, which is great, but you're growing linearly versus exponentially. And I think those exponential finds, you're right, are either actually in the... Very rarely are they in the creator's lap. Maybe they are, again, when you find that right angle that really resonates, or if you're great at trend spotting and you can kind of ride a wave of, a meme ad or something like that. But having that growth strategist being able to thesis build and like, oh, we should try this. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, we should try this. That didn't work. Is really, really helpful as well. So I think that's a really interesting way to structure it. I love that. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah. It's like exactly how you put it, like the step change. So like the toughest, most difficult position to be in, and this is like a lot, we definitely have brands who are in this, is when you actually are correct about your biggest lever and you actually are aware of it and you are already leaning into it heavily and leveraging it heavily and you're still not hitting your goals. That's like the roughest position to be in. Because you're already like, if you're already self-aware and you're not, like your biggest strength and your biggest opportunity, you're already leaning heavily into them and you're not hitting your goals. That's a tough position to be in. And fact is that in 2021, a lot of brands are in that position. So, if that's like you and you're like, none of this really like rings to me, or I'm going to go truffle hunting and find some new things. Like maybe it isn't there. And maybe you're already right about what your biggest strength is and what your biggest opportunity is. And you just got to grind it out.
Yeah. Another thing too, going back to what you were talking about at the top was maybe revisit the economics. Could you be bumping up against some constraints of your business model where like your product purchase cycle is too short? So make the product smaller. Don't put as much in the product or charge more. Or are you losing your butt on shipping and handling? Like, why are you paying $10 to ship this tiny package, 5-day ship? So there's other things you can do to dig into the business, but you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people that were kind of on the Facebook teat of just this underpriced incredibly, and to be fair, it worked, right? Like Dollar Shave Club had a massive exit. They basically were a viral video and paid arbitrage mostly on Facebook, and everybody fucking got paid there. So I'm not knocking it. I just don't think that's the current climate anymore.
No, it's not. I mean, don't try and build. That's another thing is like, if you're trying to disrupt a market that's already been disruptive, like shaving or like wallets or what, like, it's not a disruptive brand anymore. Like you can't lean your hat on like, we're cutting out the middleman, message is too old at this point in your space. So don't try and build based on like the biggest person in your space who built like back in 2014. So I think that's everyone's always like, oh yeah, like just follow those who like yeah, kinda maybe, but like you're in a different time period. Like you can't do what they did. from the 0 to 1 phase. And yeah, maybe that Facebook ads still work for the Ridge wallet now, but if you're going to launch the Ridge wallet now, Facebook ads they're going to be tough, you know?
So well put. And to be fair, like the Ridge guys, one, are super wicked smart, and two, they do a great job in terms of community and all this other parts of the marketing ecosystem. Oh, yeah. They're just not smash and paid media.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everything is lifted up. So.
Yeah, I heard an interview once with the founder of MVMT, and it was just like they paid media arbitrage early on. It's just if you're going to try and launch MVMT now, it's not going to work the same way. You can't get it from 0 to 1 the same way, 0 to 3 the same way.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. All right, John, can you believe it? You made it to the rapid fire question. Right. Put on your armor. We're going to take you through. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Facebook CPMs, overrated or underrated?
Like looking at CPMs or caring about CPMs?
Yeah, overrated, underrated.
Macro level, underrated.
Underrated? I love it. Zion National Park, overrated, underrated?
It's underrated.
Oh, my man. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, overrated, underrated?
It's underrated.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you dig in there? Tell me why.
If you were to ask me starting early on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, overrated, underrated, I'd say way overrated.
Uh-huh.
Starting early,
okay.
Not that helpful. But there's magic in the weekend.
Yep.
There's definitely magic in the weekend, and there still is. That's what we found this year. You know, like every year we doubt it a little bit, and every year it's like, nope, there's magic in the weekend for sure.
To be fair, I shit on it all month. I was just kind of ringing the bell of apocalyptic stuff coming and everything.
Well, look, you know, whether people sold product that they actually had in their warehouse or whether that product was sitting on the water, I'm not here to tell you that. But,
that's why my job ended.
Yeah, that's my job ended when we sold it. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, CBOs, overrated, underrated?
Overrated.
Ooh, I like it. Spicy.
Whatever the ad account likes. Do what the ad account likes.
Oh, I love that. No dogma. I love that. What this guy? He's just an 11, isn't he? All right, Utah, overrated, underrated?
I think most of the world probably thinks Utah is overrated. It's underrated for a certain kind of person. You know what I mean? Like if you're the kind of person who fits in here, you'd love it here. But, yeah.
Southern Utah has a special place in my heart. I mean, all of Utah is beautiful.
Most people who've been to Utah to visit, to hike or something, would say underrated. Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. TikTok, overrated, underrated?
I'm going to go overrated here. I'm not sold. Ooh. I've only seen one brand that I can like convincingly say like, oh, they're making TikTok work for them pretty well. I've seen a lot of people who claim that they're making TikTok work, but nobody's been able to show me yet, other than that one brand.
I love it. Trust but verify. Nothing gets by. It's JC over here. All right. Working from home, overrated, underrated?
Do you have kids in this rapid fire situation?
I do not have kids yet.
Okay. For you, I would say working from home, underrated. Working from home is great. If you have kids, don't be so sold on the working from home dream if you have kids, especially. Or just in general. Like if you're not the right kind of person, working from home stuff. I get up I have a routine where like I put on real person clothes, like not my pajamas, and like go to work in my office at a certain time of day.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. I would echo your sentiments. I've been working from home for a while now because I used to work at an agency out of New York, and I couldn't echo your sentiments where I used to be a work from home maximalist, and now we just got our office and I'm just so stoked just because my fiance has her own little vintage business, and so it's great, but like it's just, you lose focus, you get interrupted. There's just all these little things that you don't account for, and then I show up like as a worse partner at the end of the day because I didn't get what I need to get done at work.
When does the day end? At the end of the day, when does the day end, man? Yeah.
Gosh, I already had burnout with that.
Right.
And I had to give myself like hours, and you're absolutely right.
And it's like, I think maybe this is less of a problem in the post-COVID world, but pre-COVID, like if you worked at home, man, like nobody thought you like everyone's like, oh, John doesn't have a job. Like he can help me move in the middle of the day, like. No, John can run this errand at 1:00 p.m. because he's got nothing going on. He's just at home.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I felt that too. All right, favorite meal and why?
Oh my gosh, I mean, I don't know. My favorite meal. There's a pizza place in Utah, not in the town I live in, but in another another town that I'm like very fond of. And why is, I don't know, it's freaking delicious, and I love pizza. Like,
What kind of pizza?
it's like Chicago. It's like deep dish. Like, it's like one of those, like, you eat like one piece and you're like, I'm full. I got to take the rest home.
I love it. When you come to Austin, there's a great Chicago place out here called Via 3.
Look, I love a good barbecue too. I love a good barbecue too. I was in Austin a few times to run. You know, usually our NCAA regionals were there. So,
oh, I love it. Favorite movie?
Like, favorite fictional movie? Yeah. So,
any movie.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Okay, so any of all time, like,
yeah, too hard,
dude. This is hard. What?
I know, it's rapid fire.
I can't rapid fire that.
These are the tough ones.
That one's tough, man. I don't know, like maybe Forrest Gump. Like, it's a classic, right?
Strong.
Shawshank.
Yeah,
Shawshank, which actually came out in the same year as Forrest Gump and did not win an Oscar because Forrest Gump won it. Freaking sucks to be Shawshank, right?
I know. Well, I think, like, historically it's caught up. I think it's probably accurately rated. It's a masterpiece. Yeah. It's a fantastic flick.
Yeah.
Good pick. Favorite newsletter?
I like Marketing Brew. I like The Hustle. I like Whale Mail. That's what.
Hey, look at that, man. Yeah, great picks. Favorite place travel to and why?
I think probably Hawaii, like North Shore.
Yeah.
I've only been once, and it was just me and my wife. Like, after we had kids, we left the kids home and went, and that's probably why. That's probably your why right there, because it was like just us. I do like doing so this is a thing you learn when you have kids is there's trips and there's vacations. If you go to Disneyland with the kids, that's a trip. That is not a vacation. Hawaii, North Shore with my wife, that's probably one of the only vacations I've taken, like real vacations for like a week for a minute now. So I'm confirmation bias. I love Austin though. I do actually love traveling in Austin. Like, it's an amazing city.
It's a fun city.
Yeah.
It's really fun. Favorite way to spend your free time?
I like to play basketball now. Yeah. Like, like running, but yeah, I like to play basketball. I mean, other than the chalk answer of like spend time with my family, but aside from that, I like to hoop, all 5'8" of me. I'm not good, but I like to play.
Powerful. Little John Stockton love over there.
Yeah.
Favorite follow on Twitter?
There's some good ones. Raba, you.
Look at this. He's throwing all the love everywhere.
Yeah, Nick Chuck is a good follow too, I guess.
He's a great feed. Super strong feed. Yeah. Okay, last one, and you'll make it through the whole podcast and the rapid fire. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional, everybody's in the same room, so you're hosting the dinner party. Who would they be?
I can't not say Prefontaine. As a runner, someone who's dead, right? So I can't not say Steve Prefontaine. I probably will say all people who are dead. Maybe you know what? I think I'd go this would be like a weird crowd though. So maybe Steve Prefontaine. So I'm going to go direction here and think of the whole grouping. So I do Steve Prefontaine, and then I would pick 2 other athletes, but I'm going to go a different direction with this, and I'm going to say I'd choose industrious entrepreneurs from different eras. So maybe John Rockefeller, Steve Jobs, and I don't know, someone else. Maybe Vanderbilt. He's kind of the same era as Rockefeller, though. I don't know. Someone in that vein. I wouldn't do Steve Prefontaine with those 2, though. It'd be he'd just be sitting there eating. What would he? He'd be like, "I'll
talk about the records."
Maybe Bill Bowerman. Maybe throw Bill Bowerman or Knight in there with him. You know what I mean?
That'd be fun. Bowerman, Knight, and Prefontaine at dinner.
Yeah, that'd be a good one too. That'd be a good one too. Just see what they talk about. You'd just be a fly on the wall in that conversation. Or maybe Bowerman, Shorter, and Prefontaine or something like that.
Oh, Shorter's fun. I love that. Fire on the Tracks, also a great flick.
Yeah,
John, you're such a gem. You made it through. You did it. Do you have anything to plug? Are you guys taking any clients? You want to tell us a little bit about anything?
So 2 things. Simplest thing is go to YouTube and search for Modern Commerce. That's my podcast. You will be on there soon. You can tease that. We're allowed to say that, right? You'll be on there soon. So Rob will be there soon. So go to Modern Commerce Go to YouTube, search Modern Commerce to give us that search engine love, and find the podcast and subscribe on YouTube. And then the other things, if you want to work with us, work with me, Structured Agency. So
cool. How do they get in touch?
Yeah, so go to structured.agency. I know it's a little weird. It's kind of a weird one. But yeah, that's the website, structured.agency. And just, sign up for a consult there, and we'll get you taken care of.
Beautiful. Awesome. John, you're the man. Go sub to Modern Commerce. Go get you some incredible strategy, media buying, and just overall genuine awesomeness over at structure.agency. If you want to get more involved with Triple Whale, you can go to trytriplewhale.com, jump on the wait list there. And then, as John alluded to, we have a publication that goes out every Tuesday, Thursday called Whale Mail. You can just go to our Twitters at trytriplewhale and subscribe right there on our page. John, again, thank you so much for taking the time and being so flexible in the scheduling. And this is one of that creative lever thing. I was so dug in. And, I felt a little bit caught out with that. That's a really, really, I'm going to have to write on that.
Such an easy
That's a really fascinating headspace.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great, and you baited me.
Yeah.
You baited me perfectly. I walked right in the trap and got me and just snared me in. It's amazing. Hey, brother, thanks so much again for your time. Enjoy Utah. And then when you come out to Austin, give us a shout.
For sure.
That's all we have for you, ladies and gents. That's number 12 in the books. We'll see you all on the flip. Boom.
Done.